Alrighty, welcome back. Another episode of Post-Fades and Cheesesteaks. Getting closer to training camp, and obviously we'll be doing our top 10 players. Everyone loves those
Of
videos, those
course.
episodes. So
Always a good time.
um but before we get into that, we do have some draft recap. So this will be an NFL draft recap episode. Kind of mostly focusing on what the Eagles did, and then a couple teams that stood out to me that I thought had good drafts, and then we'll kind of might take a look at the quarterbacks that were taken and see, where how we think they're going to pan out, whether they'll be eventual starters or they'll just be, ride the bench guys or, you know, whatever. So
Odd draft. I feel like this was an odd one going into it. No one really had full. Yeah, you heard a lot of depth, not very many
it,
blue chip pro
yeah,
players.
it was besides like Shedeur Sanders like falling a lot, I feel like there really wasn't a lot of drama or excitement. Like everything kind of like I don't think any team had a bad draft, which is like rare. Like I
Yeah,
feel like everyone
that's a
went
good
for
point.
needs over like reaches.
Well,
Um,
I think the grading is usually overrated and usually like
yeah.
craps on people, but it's usually like crapping on people that do one of two things. Either they go need heavy instead of, they take a guy that should be a third round pick, in the first round because they desperately need a cornerback or whatever.
Right.
Or what I never like is people crap on someone. Like I remember when the Lions took Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round and Laporta and Campbell, I think was also a first round pick. And it was like,
Mm.
these are all not premium picks, such a bad value to draft a running back and linebacker and a tight end, this and that. And then they all turned out to be great. So that one I never understood. But no, I think you're right. I think all in all, pretty well. I think the Falcons were the only team that really still got hate. Um,
You didn't like the
which
Falcons draft, you said?
I mean, the trade up, I think was a little head scratching. Just the general consensus from different people you read.
Falcons. What did
I
they?
think, well, I
Oh,
mean,
no, they didn't trade up. They stayed, took Jalen. Oh, to get come back in the first round. Yeah.
yeah, to give
Because
up a first round pick
I mean,
to get
Jalen
there seemed a little surprising.
Yeah, I mean Jalen Walker, that's what we mocked when we did our episode.
Oh, it was a great pick. Fantastic
Jalen
pick.
Walker fell right to them at 15 from Georgia linebacker, but then yeah, they did come back in at 26 to get James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. I don't know what they gave up for him.
You have a first round pick next year.
See, I don't think I would have done that.
I wouldn't have done that either. I don't just and then seeing like, guys like what was his face? Donovan from Boston College fell to the Cowboys. I mean, Mike Green fell, but I mean, he seemed to have some other off the field issues, but so did Pierce. So I don't know.
Yeah,
For consistently what you heard was this draft wasn't as good of a normal draft. Next year, who knows? Maybe you do want to hold on that pick, but I also equal it out too. I remember when the Texans traded up for Will Anderson right
hmm
after they took Stroud. And I remember thinking at first, like, oof. I mean, Will Anderson better be good because I don't think the Texans are gonna be good. And that first round pick could be like Marvin Harrison next year. It's like you better
yeah,
be you want Will Anderson over Marvin Harrison is the way, but granted, it worked out perfectly. Anderson's a stud, and the Texans went to the playoffs that year, and it turned out to be not that great of a pick. But so we'll see. Maybe Pierce and Walker both combined for 10 sacks each, and we'll laugh at this next year.
yeah, yeah. Now that you mentioned like you didn't like the Falcons, I was kind of looking at the Bengals. I didn't really like what they. I mean, they got an edge player, so they obviously needed some defense. They went edge, linebacker, interior offensive line, linebacker, interior offensive line, running back.
I
They addressed
mean,
like three positions. Like what?
but those are the positions they need to address. Hell, I actually think they should have drafted more defense.
No, I
But
agree, but I'm saying they went three linebackers essentially, two
well,
interior linemen, and a running back.
again, these are what they
I would
needed.
have went D line. I mean, their D line's pretty decent when it's healthy, but
So you know what this is what the draft. This is what I got from this draft was I feel like a lot of teams didn't necessarily draft for need so much as value. Like look at the Eagles. We'll start with the Eagles here.
okay.
Like Jahad Campbell, I love the pick. Strictly value wise, was a
Oh
great
yeah,
pick.
he could have gone top 10
Jahad,
if he was healthy.
oh, easy. Jahad Campbell, though, right away kind of surprises me as like where does he play?
I think edge.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, that wasn't really what he played in not high school,
His
college.
yeah, I mean, I think his first 2 year, well, his beginning years, I think he was more of an edge rusher, and then they, because of injuries at Alabama, I think they pushed him back to more of the like stand up middle linebacker
I
type.
mean, don't get me wrong. Yeah, he's got flexibility there.
I
I think
think
that is where he's going to play.
I
But
yeah, I think I honestly, if Nakobe Dean didn't get hurt, I don't think they take Campbell. Um, I think
yeah,
that
that's like
slightly
what I.
played a factor, but I think they'll use him. Like they'll have him playing Dean's spot if Dean's not healthy, or they'll have him edge rushing. Like I think they're going to use him as like a weapon. They're just going to put him wherever they want. Like they need a sub in somewhere. Like he'll be like one of the first to go in, whether it's stand up linebacker, like hand in the ground, coming off the edge, whatever. So I think
I
he'll
mean,
be a great
he's got
utility.
flexibility. I mean,
Yeah.
Nolan Smith, I feel like is a good comp for him, but Nolan, I feel like was just a raw football player, super
Oh, for
athlete.
sure.
Where
Both of
Campbell, I
our
think, is a
edges
much
are pretty. Him and the guy we drafted
Campbell's
last
more
year, I
polished.
forget his name, but yeah. So I was gonna say I'll just list off the picks we took, and I just want you, yeah, maybe like a sentence if you want in review, but just give me like a one, like a 0 to 10 scale on like how you would rate the pick. So 31, pick 31, round one. We had Jahad Campbell at Alabama. How do you?
Oh, great. I mean, like I said, you
10
didn't
out of
really
10.
fill. Yeah, this is like it doesn't matter who you have playing there. This was such good value. I think the guy's really good. I don't know where he necessarily starts right away, but this was a home run.
Okay. Andrew Makuba at 64 out of Texas.
This one, I didn't know him as really well.
Hmm.
Surprised me just because I knew some other names a little better that I thought would have fit better. Um, Not gonna hate it, who doesn't love a hard-hitting safety? Seems to be a little small, but gets after the ball.
Yeah.
I guess he falls into that Gardner Johnson role.
Hmm.
So I guess you could say fills a need in that aspect, but considering who else was there, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I remember a couple other guys being there that I liked a little bit more. I was kind of surprised. So I'm a little indifferent on this, but I'd say like I'm not hating. I'd be like B.
Oh, I said 0 to 10. You gave me a B. Okay.
Oh, 0 to 10.
All
That's a lot of options. I
right.
say,
All right.
I'm
Fine.
okay with
We'll
it.
do letter grades if you're gonna be. We're gonna do it
I'll
that way.
say everything gets bumped up because Howie made the pick. Like
Okay.
Howie could do literally whatever he wants. So my B is actually a Howie B plus.
Okay. I didn't know he was still on the. I to preface, I didn't get to really watch the draft as intently as I usually do because I was in Mexico for a wedding. But
Oh, name drop. Look at you,
I'm
Mr.
not. Yeah.
Cancun guy.
Shout out Eric, my homie got married. Cheers to you. But it was really hard to like pay attention to the draft. So I was doing as much as I could, and then obviously I've caught up since then. But I saw his name come up by the Eagles. I was like, he was still available because a lot of people had him like one or two. Not everyone, but there was a lot of analysts who had him like the number one or number two safety, or at least in the top five of prospects for safety. So to get him at the end of the second round, I thought was really good because it is really between him and Sidney Brown or for starting at that
Yeah.
spot. And Makubo is a lot like a fusion of, from what I've read and what I've watched, is like a fusion of Mathieu and also Gardner Johnson. So
Yeah.
it's a all like run around the field type of guy. I mean, some people have said Brian Dawkins esque, but I don't. I think they
We're
just
not
said
gonna
that
get there yet.
because he
Yeah.
was started at Clemson, and I think Dawkins was like like just 6 foot, I think. Obviously much bigger.
I'm also
But
convinced if Brian Dawkins played nowadays, he would just be ejected from
he'd
most
be
games.
fined every time he
Every
steps on
single
the
game.
field. But I love him. Um, yeah, so I really like the Kuba pick. But then with pick number 111, we took.
You know what the real like I'll say one so overall, do you know what
Mhm,
this surprised me the most about the draft? Is going into it, we heard how he's got 10 picks, he's not going to use all 10 picks, this and that. I really thought he'd be moving up more in this draft.
yeah.
So I think that was looking at like just going back, like Mike Green went a couple spots ahead. I mentioned
Hmm.
him as a I mean, him at the bottom of the second round, stud pass rusher. I liked Amos, cornerback, who went a couple spots ahead. Um, there was a couple. Benjamin Morrison was a guy I actually really liked from Notre Dame. He was, middle of the second round. I mean, these guys were a little bit out of reach, But with all the picks you had, all the moving we saw, I don't know. I just thought he'd be moving up a little bit more, and instead he did the complete opposite. He just kept moving back and back and back. But this draft had a lot more depth to it. Again, Howie can't do no wrong. I give him full pass. He could do whatever he wanted. He could have drafted you in the third round, and I wouldn't have complained.
That's good. Um, yeah, I was also surprised because like some teams, like I think the Vikings only had like four or five picks for players they drafted. So to see how he take 10 players was a little nuts. But
All in the fourth and fifth rounds, or
yeah,
sixth and fifth, really.
which is also weird. Like we didn't have a seventh pick. But yeah, I'm looking at 2026. So we have a first, a second, a third. Oh, sorry, excuse me. This is insane. We have a first, a second, our own third round pick. We have the Jets' third round pick. We have a projected third round pick for Milton Williams. Then we
Hmm.
have our own fourth, projected fourth from Josh Sweat. Then we have
Okay.
one, two, three, four fifth round picks, and then a
Yeah.
seventh. This is just for next
I,
year. Like
now, I remember
how
seeing
he was doing
something.
it.
So college football is such a mess now because you have like guys that stay, 7 years, 6 years or whatever, and it's like kind of normal with the transfer
Sure.
portal. And if you thought, I mean, someone brought up that this is still guys that played like during the COVID year where they got a write off pretty much. So this is kind of, I remember someone saying like this was an older draft. Like you had a lot of guys that have played a lot of football.
Yeah.
They
It
had a lot of transfer
was a
years. They
depth
had the
draft for
COVID
sure,
year.
too.
So yeah, and that's a like how he basically saw that, realized there wasn't many premium players, trade back a whole bunch, get a whole bunch of like, older guys that know how to play football pretty much, guys that can compete, guys that can, maybe special teams, maybe find their spot in the roster somewhere, and
Hmm.
then save yourself for next year when it's supposed to be much better, top heavy. And to be fair to Howie, it looks like he's already doing that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was worried. I was like not worried, but I was curious, like where are we gonna go with all these picks? But I'm like next year, I haven't looked at the draft class or what it's projected to look like. But yeah, we're pretty set for next year too. So um but back to the draftees. So third, I think this is the third round now, 111.
Hmm.
They took Nebraska D tackle Ty Robinson. I believe
I
that
liked him.
he's a big white boy.
Yeah. So he, again, going off to exactly what I said, because there was a couple like picks of guys that played a lot of football. This guy's played like 47 games of football. I don't know what that breaks down to years. It's got to be like at least a 4 year starter. He had a 15 tackles for velocity last year. Like this guy seems like he comes in, knows what he's doing. He's already coached up strong or smart. He's probably, I don't know, what do you think, 23? I didn't look at his age. Probably not super young,
Hmm.
but probably someone that comes in and at least fills a role right away that can hit on a rotational spot and be ready and productive. I think I like this pick. This was one of my favorite picks in the round four. The guy seemed really good. Didn't know a lot about him beforehand, but from what I've gathered, he seems like he's going to be a plug and play guy right away.
I don't know, I didn't get his. I can't find his age, but he's 6'5", 288 pounds.
Big boy.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I thought it was this is actually the fourth round. Um, I think it was a good value pick there. Obviously, we needed to get some depth there for D tackle losing Milton Williams, but um, I'm curious to see anything. The fact that a lot of these defensive players felt like they were picked by Vic Fangio. So I'm hoping he'll figure out how he wants to
No,
develop
he
them, how he
will.
wants to use them. So, but yeah,
I
they
feel like
went.
this was a long leash draft for all the coaches and GMs.
Let's
They,
see.
you want this guy? Sure thing. Now, I'm surprised you didn't mention this. He ran the fastest 40 time of all defense tackles, 4.83. How does he make you feel? I guarantee you can't run a 4.83. Would it
Not right
terrify
now.
you?
Maybe in college.
Would it terrify you a guy 288 at 6'5" is faster than you?
A little bit, yeah. Didn't Fletch
That'd be a
run like
terrifying
a
sight.
4.8? He was fast too.
Fletcher's definitely he's Fletcher at 300 pounds was definitely faster than at any point I was ever in my life.
Oh, wow. Yeah, not I mean him, not us, but Um, I didn't realize this until like now I'm really looking at it with all the players in front of me. They went defense the first five straight picks, and then went offense four straight, and then went back to defense to finish. But
Surprise you though? I feel like the offense were just loaded. We've returned like every starter minus Becton from the offense last year.
yeah, I mean they literally replaced everyone they lost. Well, essentially, like they filled the positions as far as depth goes in case if somebody's moving into a starting role because um I mean linebacker was more depth. I mean edge, you can say linebacker slash edge because we lost Sweat. And
Hmm.
then, we lost CJ, so that's Cuba. Then we lost Mel Williams, that's Ty Robinson. We lost Slay. They get depth with Mac McWilliams, which that was the next pick at 145.
Love it. UCF great.
I was gonna say, you wanna talk about Eagles
Love
drafting a
it.
UCF? You know what? That's great. I mean, so you obviously went to UCF and they drafted a
Hmm.
UCF player. I did not go to Virginia Tech, but that's my college team, and the Eagles did take a Virginia Tech player. So we both kind of won there. So that was kind of cool.
Oh, big fan. I'm getting a Mac McWilliams jerseys. He,
Oh,
I mean, the only thing he seems, he's a bigger body guy. He's like 6 foot and close to 200. Like, he
mm,
seems like he'd be a good inside guy.
yeah, I heard he's a good press corner, right? Because he's pretty physical.
Yeah, so I mean, that makes you think you can play outside, but I don't know. I'm reading he was like a bigger guy, might be good on the inside. Don't know where you put him after you
I
just drafted
think
the safety and you have DeGene,
I
but
th
I guess he does have to play outside then.
think I saw he was like 5'10" and like a couple inches. So I mean 6 foot, whatever. Um, I think
I remember seeing Cooper DeGene being floated as moved outside.
I want
I
him
don't
to
like that
stay
at all.
exactly where he is.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like
Because
him
I think
outside.
because I don't think Keely Ringo would play inside. Like I think he's better on the outside. So if Keely's going to be your starter, I mean, we would have half our stars would be fucking Georgia players, which would be nuts.
I mean, that's what happens
Um,
when you draft Georgia guys every year.
our whole defense is just going to be Georgia and Alabama players. Like,
Well,
it's a good formula, you know.
I
But
yeah, I think you need to fill in Slay's spot. Was a absolute outside guy. Didn't do
oh,
anything
of
besides play
course,
outside. He's the guy you need
and
to
he did it
replace.
really, really well for many
Of
years.
course. I won't don't want to move to Gene. Keep him in the
Yeah,
inside. If
I
you got
agree.
this Gardner Johnson replacement, that's another middle of the field guy. There's not many spots there. Put McWilliams and Ringo out there. See who competes. Bring in a veteran. Oh no, they already did. What's this? Adoree Jackson. I kind of think he
It
might
was a
have
good
something.
pickup. He could, I don't know how much left
Listen,
he's got in the tank, but
what did Howie do? He picked up like three or four first round busts from
eh,
other teams. It
yeah,
worked out pretty well for him
yeah.
picking up Mackay
Well, that worked
Becton.
last
So
year, yeah.
who
So we'll
knows?
see.
Yeah. If one
But
of them hits, then we're set.
yeah, I think we'll be fine. Like training camp will be super interesting just because we did lose quite a few players on defense after the free agency. So I want to see kind of how that fills out. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't think McWilliams will really. I mean, I don't know enough about him to say he won't push for a starting spot. But I agree with you. I think you got to keep DeJean because they used him. He blitzed off the edge. They used him at
Oh yeah,
linebacker. He was dropped back and played, high coverage as if he was a safety. Like he was all over the field because he's super athletic, super quick, super physical. I mean, tackled Derrick Henry in the open field. Like, come on,
that's true.
we need him
Now
to stay in the slot so that he can play all over. I don't want him to be solely a corner on the outside.
I could say, yeah. I mean, having Quignon in, even though Slay lost a step, he was pretty solid all year.
He's still
Having
top
those
15.
two, yeah, having those two outside, it pretty much freed up to Gene and Gardner Johnson to do whatever they wanted. I would be curious to see how that changes the secondary when you now have an open hole on the other side. Obviously, Quignon will be fine, but it really changes everything when you have the two outside perimeters just locked down. You can go to man, and those guys will hold up.
Oh yeah.
But so I mean, it's a tough spot to replace. I'd like to see McWilliams give it a try.
Hmm.
From what I've read, it seemed he's more of an inside guy, so that confused me why they would have done that. But you're drafting in the fifth round, you're not going to get perimeter top-notch cornerbacks. You got to draft them in the first round like you did last year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. If you're a corner, you're typically able to play inside or outside. It's really just more of like how I guess size and speed. Like they usually on the outside you want a bigger, faster, taller, faster guy. But we'll see. So what do you A to A to Z, what do you rank it?
I don't know where the Z and the rest of the alphabet comes in. I would say positional need. Like I said, I think he's more of a nickel inside guy from what I've read and gathered instead of
Hmm.
outside. Probably would have bumped it down because I don't really see where you play him, and I don't want to move to Gene. So it seems odd. It's kind of like what we said about Campbell and Nakobe Dean is like you're basically drafting a guy for someone you already have in a spot.
Hmm.
I'd probably say B minus there. Now you got to bump it for the Howie factor. So Howie automatically gets a B plus there. And then of course the UCF factor, which is just another bump up. So my B minus turns into an A.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, you gotta,
UCF, get a UCF bump there.
yeah, it's natural. You're grading on a curve, you know.
You giving them the same amount of grades that you got when you were in college? A's,
It's all
right?
about grading on the curve, my friend.
Reading on the card. All right, and then speaking of, we just mentioned some Georgia players. I don't know how to say his first name, but Mondin Jr.
Small,
Yeah,
small.
Small
You're
Mondin
correct.
Jr. Georgia linebacker. I was surprised he was still here. I mean, I don't think he was going to be a first or second round pick, but I figured he was, maybe a third or fourth. But he's a pretty big explosive guy, so we'll see. He's probably more of a rotational piece for depth, but um, look, reunite that whole Georgia defense because that they were something special. So you
That's
know,
true.
I think too. Like I think I said this on one of the episodes before that I think I don't think Nolan Smith would have had the progression that he did if it wasn't for his Georgia teammates also being on the field with him. I think that boosts you a lot when you're with some of your, friends, the people you are familiar with playing with. So I think he could have still developed into a solid pass rusher, but I think
Yeah, I think
that
you've been all
that
right.
boosted him a lot. So I think, see what Mondin's got, but I give that one like a B minus. I thought it was good value. Doesn't hurt to have linebacker depth and competition in camp. So, and it's a Georgia guy. So
I mean, yeah, you're obliged to draft a Georgia guy every single year, so that's
Georgia,
good that
yeah,
we hit
one
our
Georgia,
quota.
one Alabama to fit the quota.
Again, this fits more the narrative I was saying. Like these are going to be a lot of established veteran football players that've been
Yeah,
around. This guy was a 3-year starter at Georgia. He
yeah.
won 2 national championships. I'm surprised to see any 3-year starter from Georgia last until the late fifth round. I know he's got some what do you call it, injury risk from earlier in his career.
Hmm.
Again, doesn't necessarily feel the need, not really
Yeah.
traditional edge. So again, it didn't seem like it fit in naturally, but I mean, this has been the principle for Howie the last couple of years. Just keep drafting from the best teams and you'll be okay. So
Mm.
3-year George starter in late fifth round for a guy that I think hasn't hit his ceiling. I liked it. B plus, bump it up to the Howie grade, bring it up to an A.
Okay. And then finally went to offensive side, pick 168, took Drew Kendall, center out of Boston College.
I'm
Don't know too
I'm all
much about
for
him.
it. I don't either. I got a little bit. I mean, he's productive wise, like you said. Again, started 37 games
Hmm.
as center. I think he had a quick. He did well in the combine. I like the idea of bringing him in and having him compete at guard like Jurgens did when Kelsey was there. Jurgens played guard and then eventually moved to center. Now, obviously, he's not going to take the center spot, but bring another guy in to compete for that open spot on the offensive line. He's played a lot of games. He did well in the combine. Seems athletic. Played a lot of games. Smart guy. No harm in that. In the sixth round, or I'm sorry, the fifth round. Sure, I got nothing. No reason to hate it. Say it's a B. Bump it up to a Howie grade of B plus.
I didn't know that PFF did college stats, but they graded him. He had allowed only 5 pressures and had an 83.1 pass blocking grade uh,
How
for
many
that
people you
for the
think they
season.
got working at PFF if they're doing
If they're
college
doing
grades too?
college too, it's got to
Like to
be
watch every snap?
a couple thousand,
They
like
must have like
a
warehouses of
legion.
just interns locked in, like a sweatshop. of just interns staring at the computer
PFF
monitor.
has a sweatshop of scouts.
You open up the door, the sunlight comes in and burns their retinas. They're just like scurrying away like cockroaches into the corners.
Jesus Christ.
College,
But
there's a lot of players to watch.
yeah, he was a four-star recruit. He's 6'4", 308 pounds. Like you said, big boy. Um, so yeah, I think it's a good. I mean, obviously we have Cam Dragons. He just got a contract extension, but I don't even know who we have behind Cam. So this is a nice backup piece, fifth round.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. This sounds like a Scotland guy. Guy's got athleticism. He's smart. He's played a lot of games. He's huge.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Uh, Pick 181. This was a nice feel good pick. Kyle McCord, quarterback out of Syracuse. A typical, Eagles taking a quarterback, flyer on a quarterback in the late rounds, but he grew up an Eagles fan. So,
Yeah,
you get rid of Kenny Pickett to the Browns, and he was an Eagles fan, and you bring in another Eagles fan, and Kyle, who that's a he's a solid quarterback. So that's a pretty good QB room we got now with um Jalen, oh my
Tanner
God,
McKee.
yeah, Tanner McKee, now McCord coming in to learn from those two. So, and we could always,
Yeah,
QB factory. So,
honestly, if he's your third quarterback, I think it's a
oh
success.
yeah, oh yeah.
You. I think McKee's set in stone, the backup after what you saw last year,
Hmm.
and I think they knew that. That's why they traded Kenny Pickett because his team loves backups.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a can't hate a pick. I don't, All right. So do you buy any of the rumors that we would have taken Shedeur Sanders, and that's why the Browns moved up?
The way Howie was talking about it makes me think not really, because people kept asking him because that, like you said, that was a rumor going around. I mean, at that point, like the value is there. Like I
Oh yeah,
don't.
but you don't want that. The
Right.
headache and everything that comes with it.
That's a whole nother like because there's so many different stories that conflict with each other about, he was a horrible interview. Like his interviews were really cocky and, obviously with his dad calling the shots and this and that and him, being, that he's the best thing since sliced bread. So I think I don't know how he lasted as long as he did, even with all of that. That's still a little crazy to me.
Mhm.
He still should have went by at least the third, like early third round. But yeah, this man
Yeah, I
was being
mean,
mocked top five for all this spring winter season. So
I mean, I've never seen anything like that.
no,
Like, I don't
it's
know.
insane.
Like, there's drops. Like, I
There had
mean,
to have
you
been
think of,
owners and GMs are like, yeah, nobody draft this guy. We're trying to send a message or something
I mean,
because
honestly, yeah,
it does make
this is an
sense.
odd nothing to do with football, which is odd because I mean, especially a quarterback. Man, I've seen some horrible people get drafted with some horrible accusations. I've seen guys that have broken bodies get drafted.
Hmm.
I've seen guys that are like nearly 30 years old get drafted. I've seen guys that barely played football get drafted higher than the fifth round.
Yeah.
Like it just seems odd that no one was willing to take a shot on him. Or like it was very clearly this had nothing to do with him as a player. It just was all off the field. Which I mean, I don't know. Like Tim Tebow went the first round. I don't know. He had a
Well,
lot going with him.
yeah. I don't know. It's
Like Tebow, like someone like Tebow's the only guy I can think matches with the media and the hype that comes with him. And Tebow was a guy that people didn't even think could play quarterback going into NFL. He went in the first round. A guy you'd be pressured to even play as a quarterback went, in the first round.
mhm.
Shedeur was definitely going to be a quarterback. People rated him as a first round guy easy, and he dropped. I
Yeah, I mean, we
just,
had him at 9 in our mock draft, I think, and everyone else had him in the first round or maybe in the end of the first to the Giants coming back. Giants set it up perfectly. They traded back in and then they took the other quarterback, but uh,
I
it
didn't
was
even mind
weird.
that one. I mean, it seemed like it was pretty close.
Yeah.
The weirdest thing I think for me is why did the Browns draft him? Like once you get past the fact that he finally got drafted, the Browns had 100 chances to draft
And
him.
they
They
drafted a
desperately
quarterback.
needed a quarterback.
They drafted a quarterback ahead of him.
Yeah.
They drafted two quarterbacks that this
Like
draft.
why did you draft Dylan Gabriel there if you did, if you had Dylan Gabriel rated than higher than Shedeur Sanders, then fine, no problem. Draft him there. That's cool.
Yeah.
But if you did have him rated higher, then why even entertain the Shedeur Sanders idea? Because you're thinking we have our guy. There were some teams like the Patriots, the Commanders, the Bears, the Titans. They drafted a young quarterback, regardless if they'd seen something by now. They just had their guy. They weren't going to rock the boat. I don't know.
What's weird is if Cleveland would have stayed at number 2 and drafted Travis Hunter, they still could have ended up with Shedeur, and they could have kept those two together. That would have been a nice little future, but I
It's
don't
I
know.
don't know something. But then yeah, they also traded up.
Yeah,
That's where I think
they
the
had a weird
Eagles.
draft.
Yeah, the Eagles thing is confusing. So I'm looking at the other teams that were right behind us. You had the Panthers who traded back with the Patriots. Then you had the Saints who traded back with the Niners. Um, the Rams were drafting there, so I mean, you could realistically say the Rams maybe would have taken them. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder what the whispers were because everyone had passed
Hmm.
on them like 4 or 5 times. Wonder what the whispers were that they finally like, oh no, we have to get him now.
Yeah, I don't. Not sure. It was like I said, even for me, like not being able to pay, like sit down and watch it all the way through, like I normally do. Like I was like, what the hell is going on? Like I was trying to figure out why he wasn't getting taken, and but
I know it was a whole hoopla. Once he got drafted, everyone was losing their mind. I didn't even notice that the Eagles just drafted a guy from UCF on the next pick.
was it the
I was like,
next pick?
how did that slide under my radar?
Tim's like, hold on, this is the real headliner.
Yeah, wait, what? They tried to slide that under me.
That's funny. Yeah, we'll see what happens now. I mean, Browns have like 14 quarterbacks on their roster now, so
Yeah, I think people make a big deal about that. Like, I would just train Kitty Pickett tomorrow. You gave up a sixth. Who
I mean,
cares?
they got Watson, they got Kenny Pickett, they have.
Well, Deshaun Watson's broken, so he's
Well,
not going to be doing
I'm
anything.
just yeah. Um, the two quarterbacks they just drafted, and then Joe Flacco came back. I'm pretty sure. So
I think everyone's making a big deal about this big quarterback room. How are they going to get reps? You trade Kenny Pickett today.
again, he just got there.
I mean, at
He
worst,
said
you
he's
say, all right,
competing for a job. I mean,
he's not going to. Joe Flacco's your starter. You just say that going in. Joe Flacco's like, whatever, I don't need practice reps. Who cares? I'll just start for you.
right.
And then Dylan Gabriel and what's his face Sanders just get all the practice reps, and you can compare them both back to back, side
Hmm.
by side, because Flacco's the starter no matter what, and he doesn't have to show you anything. Deshaun Watson is broken, and you traded Kenny Pickett, and I think that's the way you do it. And if you set it up that way, I think it's a good system for the Browns because they need a quarterback desperately. They went and took two just to see how it would work out. There's an opening for one of them if they play well, and realistically, who knows? Maybe Sanders and Dylan Gabriel are your 1-2 next year.
Yeah,
So
who knows is right. But so back to the Eagles draft though. Like I said, they kind of went heavy O line, just getting some depth pieces, possible maybe future starters. I know the Michigan guy, Miles Hinton, tackle out of Michigan. People were saying he could maybe they could develop him into something, and then took Cameron Williams, another tackle out of Texas. We had two Texas players
hmm.
in this draft. Honestly, that's actually one thing I did notice is that typically I feel like the Eagles take at least one, sometimes two players from like smaller colleges. But everybody, I mean, Central Florida is probably the smallest college in
Hey,
this.
name check your buddy. We're higher up than Virginia Tech.
So Virginia Tech and Central Florida are probably the smallest schools in this. I mean, Alabama, Texas, Nebraska, UCF, Georgia, BC. Oh, you know what? Syracuse probably as a football program is below VT in Central Florida,
Yeah.
but and then Michigan. So that was a pretty stout
Hey, and
group.
you know what? Like you got play like stand veteran players too. We were talking
Yeah,
about. Hinton played nearly 30 games.
yeah,
5-year guy.
yeah.
Cameron Williams, he played big snaps. He seems like I like that they got two different guys. One that's played right and left tackle, played
True.
for 5 years. You got another guy that's a project. See what happens. You get some depth out of it. Then you got the edge rusher you really like.
Yes. Like I said, so I was able to catch a little bit of this. I actually was able to watch this pick happen, and I thought I was like I had to like check myself that I wasn't drunk and or like my eyes were poisoned from the sun. Because I was like, did I read that right? Like Antoine Power Island was still on the board at 209. Um, and he went to the birds, and so that's my favorite. I mean, obviously Jahai Campbell and Makuba are great picks, but for value, I mean, Power Island. I think the reason he slid so far to the sixth round is because he's really just a pure edge rusher. Like he's not going to give you anything in run stopping. He's just like you put him in a cannon and you light the fuse, and he's going to go chase the quarterback. He had, I think, 15 sacks a lot this past season, and he's had like 26 over the last two seasons. So,
Hmm.
I mean, a rotation guy, beast. I'm really excited to see what the coaching staff is able to get out of him because he was Virginia Tech's like best player on defense. I mean, Virginia Tech wasn't very good this year, but I mean, he was a terror. So I'm super stoked. Um, you know what? If you get a Mac McWilliams jersey, I'm gonna get a Power Island jersey. I think he's wearing
Hey,
93 from that or 97. I can't remember,
oh,
but
nice. Hey, having a speed guy we drafted with the sixth overall pick's good. I mean, we gave 50 million guaranteed to a speed guy that doesn't do anything else
yeah,
last year. So it's better investment to just put a 6th round pick on him instead of all the money we gave Huff. But
true.
hey, listen, throw another name in there, see where it goes.
Yeah, I wonder what even happens to Huff at this point. Like,
I mean, he's going to play.
is
He'll just
he?
go back to the
How
same role. He's
many
just going to be a rotational guy.
how many snaps did he have in the Super Bowl? Like four, two?
I'd be shocked if he had any. Oh no, they would have got it. Kenny Pickett played. He would have
I
got a
think
snap or
I
two.
think you I think it was either this game or the championship game. You pointed out how many snaps he had. I can't remember.
Oh, we had the playoff counter.
Yeah,
We
the Huff counter.
yeah. To be fair, now because he was getting some games at the end of the year. We started the Huff counter around like week 17 or so.
Mm,
He did finish the year. Trying to think. Yeah, I don't know. He didn't really didn't do much. Probably you didn't even know he played.
all right. So overall, me personally, I give the Eagles I would say A minus. The only position I would have liked, and I said this in our group chat, and I mean Nick, who's been on the show, and he was in our draft episode, he kind of said, we don't really need to waste a pick on it, but I would have liked a wide receiver pick just for competition. Like, how many times do you bring in a wide receiver from a draft and he turns out to be a sleeper pick you took and you didn't expect much and he ended up being good. I just like it for depth and competition, but otherwise I think it was a really good. They addressed, I wouldn't say they were needs, but they addressed pieces they lost by getting depth in those areas. So, and our line's getting older, so they definitely have been the last 2 years have had some good line pieces. So, I mean, Lane's probably got 2 or 3 more years in him. My lot is getting up there. So, but yeah, I'd say A minus overall. What about you?
I mean, it wasn't a sexy draft. Like I don't think the Campbell
Yeah,
pick
nobody had
was
a
like
sexy draft.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you there. I think relative to what this draft was going to give you, like there wasn't many top-notch players. It was value and stuff. The Campbell pick was great. The other ones were kind of like none of them blew me away. I was fine with all of them. I wasn't, mad. I think we overpicked her. I would have liked to see a little more attention given to um like edge rusher. I know you got the guy from Virginia Tech you like.
Hmm.
You drafted two linebackers that may play edge. Would have liked to see an outside corner outside of the UCF guy that
Yeah.
maybe projects better inside. But I mean, I'm not gonna hate it. I'd say it's a B. B
Okay.
plus. We'll
Okay.
say I'll give it a B,
B
but we'll bump it up for Howie to B plus.
B plus. Okay. I'm
It's
surprised.
just
I thought you would have been higher than me, but okay.
I don't know. I just didn't really, I think maybe my mindset was I really thought we were going to move up and be more aggressive on the board. Now, hindsight, it seems like this draft just didn't have
But like,
anyone
who
really
did you
worth going
want?
up.
Like, who did you like? They were going to move up to try and get Campbell, and he just fell to them. I mean, they moved up one spot, but
Yeah.
I mean, the players that I wanted went in the like 15 to 8 realm, So like after that, I was kind of like, I'll just stay put or trade out unless somebody else falls. But then Campbell
Yeah.
fell, so
Yeah, no, I mean, I do get that. I mean, the second round, I thought you could have definitely moved up. There was a bunch of guys there, especially considering how many fifth and sixth picks you had.
Mm.
Like, did we really need four, 6 round or fifth round picks or 6 round picks, whatever it was? You didn't even draft anyone in the third round. Um, Again, there wasn't necessarily anyone in the third round that I think would have been worth getting. I just think wasn't a great draft class in general. They got a stud that fell to them all the way to the end of the first round.
Yeah.
The rest of the picks, no one's really blowing me away. Like I'm not
Mm.
super excited on anyone. The safety could be fun. Ty Robinson, I like. I think that's the best pick
Yeah.
that I really like. Um,
I think they did well on the first three picks. Because Ty was actually he was a fourth round pick, I believe, like early fourth.
yeah, I
Um,
think that was a good value. Like that was a good pick. That was my second favorite pick besides Campbell.
I think they were all good value. I mean, I know it's like, there's been some bad Eagles drafts, so it's not like we're being biased. Like we've gone through some bad Eagles drafts, but they the last 3 years, their drafts have been they've drafted at they've been able to draft best available talent at positions of need, whether it's depth or starter potential. So, I mean, I can't fault them. I'm looking at someone put together they took 24 different um, like expert analysis people that did grades on individual team drafts. And the Eagles, their lowest rating was a B.
Okay.
Highest rating was an A plus.
Wow, really?
Um, and excuse me, just an A. And then so on average, I think an A minus B plus was the popular one, but they finished fifth overall if you take all the scores and put them together.
Really?
So pretty good. I would say it's about right. Um,
Listen, I'm not against it. I think I'm just being picky. Like I would have liked to seen, an outside corner
yeah, no, I
drafted
I
as
agree.
opposed to like a flex guy. I would have liked to see a
Well,
polished edge rusher drafted instead of maybe two linebackers that are off-ball linebackers. I would have maybe liked to seen a guard drafted as opposed to a center. These are little nitpicky things.
yeah,
Would have enjoyed a third round wide receiver or third wide receiver
yeah,
if there was one there. That would have been nice to see at least one wide receiver just because that's a big hole. But I don't know. I'll give them the credit of the doubt and say that maybe they knew Dallas was going to stay. I was disappointed they didn't bring in a
they
tight
didn't.
end and what
Yeah,
was supposed to be like a talented tight end draft. So I
that
think
was.
that's more
I
or
did
less
forget about
where
that. Yeah,
I think that's where my nitpicking is the specific needs. This is where I thought they would be a little more aggressive to go get guys that fall from their specific needs. Like I think in every single one of those positions, there was someone that actually fell. But again, I'm not mad. I just was surprised to see them not address need specific positions in a draft where it wasn't like, a second round grade was much different than a fifth round grade kind of guy. You know what I mean? The value was pretty much all the same. So I'm surprised they didn't take more needs because it's not like he really would have overdrafted anyone because it's the guys in the third round were the same as the guys in the sixth round.
yeah. I think that's the thing too. Is like the draft, kind of like you said. There's not really any sexy picks, so I think it was like really a really balanced draft for kind of every team. I mean, I see a couple D's, but it looks like most teams were kind of
These, I don't know. I didn't
not for
think
the
there was one team that
Eagles.
did bad.
Um, let's see. Someone gave the
I thought
Vi. No, wait.
I thought it was
Someone,
questionable that the Falcons traded a first round pick. That was the only thing that I thought was a little odd.
yeah,
Outside that, I think everyone did okay. I mean, I didn't see any level like, oh my God, what were they thinking?
the bottom five. I kind of like this. The 49ers were 27th overall. It's kind of funny. Um, so the Bengals were ranked as the worst. Then it was the Dolphins. Then the Lions were the only one of two teams that got an F out of all these 24 different
The
analysts.
Lions.
Lions and the Chargers got Fs from the same guy some guy from Fantasy Life. Never heard of it.
Like, how bad must your draft been to be an F? Did they draft a kicker in the third round that I missed?
Didn't the Ravens draft a kicker?
Well, yeah, their kicker's
Well,
about to
now
get arrested.
Tucker got released.
I mean, listen, I don't blame him. You knew you were releasing Tucker, so you might as well have someone replace him.
What do you think so Eagles are five. Who do you think 1 to 4 was? teams.
See, the Jaguars are one that I think could go either way. I liked the aggressiveness to go get Travis Hunter.
I think it was a good move. Yeah.
Uh, I think it was a good move. I can understand why people would hate it. I think I always think the Jaguars underperformed. I don't think they're
Oh,
going to be
they
giving
are
up.
the biggest
They
underperforming
should be
team.
better than
Them
what
and the
they've been.
Browns. The Browns, I
The Browns
still think
suck.
the Brown.
They've
No,
always
the
sucked,
Browns have they have good players in spots. Like their defense
but they
is
suck.
good, but they're just the quarterback is the problem. So
Well, they drafted two of them this year, so that helps.
yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But
I'm trying to think who else. I can't remember which draft. The Giants actually didn't mind their draft. The Cowboys actually I thought did pretty well.
yeah,
I did think the Cowboys they got that East Carolina guy that I liked.
yeah, Cowboys
But
finished
you know
seventh
what?
in this.
The East Carolina guy, he reminds me of Sidney Jones. Remember
Hmm.
when Sidney Jones was going in the first round and then blew out his Achilles? This guy was supposed to be in the first round, blew out his Achilles. They both
Yep.
kind of went to smaller schools, Washington, East Carolina. But I don't know. He seemed like a guy that was a consensus first round talent before he got hurt in a weak draft. I was surprised to see him fall all the way. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think. I can't really think
So
of
you
anyone
got
else.
one. The Giants finished second in this cumulative grading.
I mean, Giants would just come down to whether you like Dart or not.
I mean,
Carter was the easy pick.
yeah, they had a lot of needs, so it's not like they could really do much wrong. They had to fill a lot of positions, but
Let's see who else was. I can't think off my top head who else. I think the Ravens did pretty well. I like Starks and who was the other guy? Oh, Green. I mean,
Ra
value away if he's
yeah,
a scumbag, then
Ravens Ravens came in eighth, Cowboys came in seventh, Raiders came in sixth,
right. Oh, they got Genty.
Browns,
I like that pick.
yeah, Browns at nine, and Jags were 10. Um, so the one of the teams went deep in the playoffs. Another team had traded away their half their offense, and the other team got a new coach.
One team traded away half their offense.
Well, they're important players.
Oh, the Steelers.
No, but that, yeah,
Oh, who'd be the other for the Seahawks?
you're on the right team, but the player that they got from what team was that from?
The Seahawks.
Yeah, Seahawks came
They
in
they were
third.
solid. I
Yeah, I
think
think
I
that
had them drafting Zabel on when we did the draft.
you might have. Yeah, I think they traded up to get him, didn't they? I don't
Maybe
remember.
again, see, you know what? That would have been something that I thought Howie would be doing. They trade up for a guy that fell of a
Well,
position they needed.
Seahawks got Milrow, and I think the fourth. I think that was pretty good value for him.
Yeah, I like it. He's
If he gets the
gadget
right coaches
quarterback.
behind him, he could develop. I mean, Jalen
I mean, he's
developed,
in a good
so
spot. He's also in a spot where they're not going to be asking him to play. Like Darnold's established enough that there'll be no one's going to be begging for Milrow to
yeah,
start over him.
yeah. Um, so
New coach.
yeah,
Cowboys got a new coach.
the Cowboys came in seventh.
Oh, you said that already. Trying to think who else got a new coach. Who else got fired? The Bears
New coach, and this coach played for this team.
or the Patriots?
Yeah, Patriots came in number one.
Really? Oh, they
All
got who they get?
mostly
Will
A's.
Campbell.
Mostly A's. Okay, this guy who gave the Lions and the Chargers an F just didn't like any team. He gave like everyone C's and B's.
Did he
He
get
gave
a who was his top rated team? I'm curious now for him.
he gave the Giants an A plus, which is
So the
crazy because
Giants were his number one.
he gave the Giants an A plus.
He must be a huge Jackson Dart fan.
He gave the Ravens an A plus. He gave the Eagles an A minus.
He's very
He
easy with the grades. He's
but
very
he
overdramatic or
but he gave the
underdramatic.
Patriots a C plus. Everyone else gave the Patriots an A or a B plus. It's interesting.
This sounds like you with some of your takes. And I'm logical and usually we have a guest that's also logical and you're just out of Nowheresville.
Yeah, this guy's I don't know. What's his name? Thor Nystrom from Fantasy Life.
To hell of a name.
You got to be bold with a name like that.
Yeah.
He gave out two Fs, two quite a
F is
few,
so aggressive.
like
Can't,
five Ds.
it's just like so aggressive. Like
This guy
what could
just
they
is
have done?
he was just I fucking hate it here. Like He was just done with the whole weekend. He's like, I'm tired of this draft.
Yeah, so over
Um,
dramatic.
so yeah, okay. So Patriots were again, this is a they took 24 evaluations of sports analysts and their grades on each team's draft. So came in number one overall, Giants at two, Seahawks at three, the Chiefs at four, and
Okay.
then the Eagles at five, and then I told you the rest. But um, I think for me personally, I think Patriots Seahawks were my other favorites. The Ravens always have a pretty solid draft. I thought the Panthers actually had a pretty decent draft.
Drafting
Um,
McMillan there.
yeah, I think that was a good for them.
I
Um,
mean, you need guys. This is a big Bryce Young year. And I think they took two edges because they're what do you call it? Their defense stinks, which is nice.
yeah,
Um,
I agree with you though. I think the Jags did have a good draft. I mean, you take Travis Hunter now, you pair him with, um, oh my God, I just blanked on his name, Brian Thomas.
yeah,
And they have ETN still. They drafted two Virginia Tech running back. He's a nice little gadget player.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, I didn't see. I mean, granted, they didn't pick until the third round after that, so they had two threes, two fours. But this is a team that we said a lot last year. I'm shocked that they went 4-13. Like the Browns, they suck. Deshaun Watson stinks. They
well,
don't have a quarterback. The Jags, if you plug some holes up, get an offensive line, bring in a guy, impact player like Travis Hunter with ETN and what's his face, Brian Thomas. Like
yeah.
Trevor Lawrence should be
I
good
mean,
enough now to get you to the playoffs if you put some pieces around him.
Trevor Lawrence has no more excuses. Like he's got to get it done. He's just a turnover machine. But like he's
Yeah.
very streaky. Like some games he's like really really good, and then other games, most games it seems like he's just not connecting.
This is why I like the move on both sides, to be honest, because the Browns, Travis Hunter is not changing the Browns. The Browns are still not making the playoffs next year. The Browns also don't have any young talent because they traded away all of their first round picks to get Watson. So they need as
Yeah.
many picks as they humanly possibly can get until they find a quarterback. So I like the fact that they have two first round picks next year. They still got a top five talent. Um, but the Jags were more realistically the team that's like, I need one more impact player and we can actually make some noise in a very winnable division. I think it made the most sense.
All right.
Yeah.
And then I'll just say we'll just end this on kind of quick overview of all the quarterbacks that were taken, and then just quick thoughts on what we think is going to happen with them. So obviously starting off, Tennessee at number one took Cam Ward out of Miami. Obviously, I think probably will start week one.
Yeah, he's definitely starting week one.
And then the Giants drafted back or traded back into the first round at 25 to take Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss.
I like their aggressiveness. I mean, I'll never compliment the Giants on anything, but they didn't take them in top five, which would have been very on brand for the Giants, but they wanted their guy. They went and got him. So I applaud them for that. I think it was good. They didn't give up too much,
Yeah,
if
I
I remember.
think unfortunately for us, the Giants are doing the right thing here. They got a young quarterback. They have a pretty good veteran QB room with Russ and Jameis Winston. So he can kind of sit for a year. Giants will
Oh
kind of
yeah, Dart's not going
struggle.
to play.
But Russ is a great example to learn from, even though he's a little washed now. Jameis is a fun team guy, so he's in a good environment there. Um, I think it was a good pick at that value for the second quarterback off the board. And then this is when it got started getting weird because then we were skipping Shedeur, but the Saints at 40 took Tyler Show out of Louisville.
Shuck.
Shuck, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Shuck.
This one I don't get.
He turns
Like,
26 at the start of the season.
yeah, I don't get
What?
this one.
The Saints will saint.
This is what a team does that never makes the playoffs, but are always $50 million over the cap every single year. They just will not give up on the fact that they need a win right now.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't understand it.
they're just. I guess the only logic is he's 25, he's very experienced. We can put him in now, and he can win us some games. That's the only thing I can think of. I don't really get it. Your team stinks. You are nowhere close to competing. Your team's not young. You're not going to get young. You don't have picks. You have no money. Like if it takes you 3 years to build a team, this guy's going to be near almost 30.
Yeah, This is like Brandon Whedon all over again. Why are you drafting quarterbacks that are like 40 already?
Why are you
Like,
using top like this was the 40th pick overall? It was nearly a first round pick.
yeah, you're still in the second round. Like, just
I mean, this was a team that I mean, I don't know. Like I said, should the Saints are going to draft Shedeur and they shouldn't draft Shedeur, but I would have definitely drafted Shedeur in the
at
second round
40?
here.
Yeah, I would have taken him at 40.
I mean,
Um,
you would have just thrown Shedeur into the fire. I mean, good luck, Shedeur. That's not a place I'd want to be, but that would also temper the expectations. You might not be a media circus so much if he goes out there and stinks for 4 or 5 games. People will probably move on to something new.
yeah, I mean, I don't know who else is in that QB room besides um Derek Carr, but I mean, I don't think he's going to be ready for the season, so this guy might be starting.
Well, Derek
Uh,
Carr's going to be in a rehab facility, I would imagine, from week one, from what it sounds like.
yeah, so
Well,
interesting.
Tyler Shuck, I think, broke both his shoulders, so they could relate on that. That'd be good for them to bond.
Yeah. The next QB taken was at 92. It was the Seattle Seahawks. Traded up to get Jalen Milroe from Alabama. I think it was, like I said, a good value. Um, he can sit behind Sam Darnold for a year or two. Maybe he develops, maybe he doesn't, but either way, um, a good athlete, if he doesn't work out a quarterback, maybe force him into running back or something. But
I like
um,
it. There's
yeah,
no
I think
rush.
it's a good pick. Like I said, maybe he'll turn into a starter in like a year or two, but he'd definitely be on the bench this year.
Good team for him to go to. They have a set quarterback. No one's going to expect him to play. He won't play, and at least he gets to go to a team that maybe down the road he could play. I had no fault with it.
Yeah. And then the lovely Cleveland Browns at 94 went and took Dylan Gabriel from Oregon and then came back at 144 and took Shedeur Sanders from Colorado. So kind of already
I mean, logically, yeah.
hit on that, but yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
It's funny because I'm looking at this on PFF and they have like pick grades. So Dylan Gabriel pick grade was below average, but the Shedeur pick at 144 was elite,
Oh, yeah.
which
I mean, you get
that's
the first
pretty,
round guy in
yeah,
the fifth round.
yeah.
Dylan Gabriel stinks. I'm a big Dylan Gabriel hater. He used to, he was the UCF quarterback for a while. He never got better. He kept making the same freshman mistakes as he started as a true freshman. And as soon as he started to figure it out, he transferred.
Mm.
So I'm a Dylan Gabriel hater. I hope Shedeur plays before him, and I hope that Kenny Pickett plays before both of them. Go Joe Flacco.
Then the next quarterback to go off the board was at 181 by our Philadelphia Eagles, taking Kyle McCord out of Syracuse. I think we both kind of felt, good value, good third quarterback, and
Hey, I think
maybe,
everyone's happy. He's the third quarterback.
you
Everyone's
know
happy.
what? It'll be Tanner McKee all over again. We'll ship Tanner out for a good draft pick. And then McCord will step into the number two slot, and then we'll ship him out and then Jalen will retire, and then we have a new guy. So we'll see what happens.
Mhm.
But
The factory.
factory. Steelers did take a quarterback, 185. Will Howard out of Ohio State. They do not have a starting quarterback, and they waited until pick 185 to take a quarterback in the draft.
I mean, I would find it hilarious if Aaron Rodgers just decides to retire. That would be the most Aaron Rodgers thing in the world.
I mean, they just traded away Pickens to the Cowboys for a third round pick, and they traded for
Boy, that
DK, but again, like I don't know
that
what
just looks like a disaster waiting to happen.
in Dallas.
I've never seen a player go to Dallas who had character concerns and suddenly figure it out and
Yeah, oh
then
yeah,
become
no,
straight and narrow.
it's only gonna get worse.
Oh, it's gonna be great. The
No,
the
get your
the the
popcorn ready.
the big lights of Dallas are only gonna be like just make the
Oh,
Pickens thing
magnified.
worse.
Yeah.
Like the guy fights players every other week. Just wait until you're on national TV and Stephen A is talking about you every 3 seconds. It's gonna be fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, value like 185. Not a bad spot for him. He's a decent quarterback. But yeah.
I
Then
don't
the
understand. The only thing I would say with Will Howard, I don't hate it or everything. What was it that the Steelers did not like about Shedeur? They're the team that makes the least amount of sense because you are bringing a circus into town with Aaron Rodgers. I know it's a different circus, but I actually like Shedeur playing behind Rodgers because that circus will cover up the other circus. You know, if the Steelers like to portray this the Steelers way, we do it our way, do this and that they always have just circuses and nonsense on the field constantly. They constantly have characters. Like this is not a new thing for them. They've always have someone drumming up criticism and media time.
We should
Why not let Shador come in, play behind Aaron Rodgers, let Aaron Rodgers say he's taking mushrooms and jetting off to Egypt in during the bye and let them everyone talk about that and let Shador play behind him. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean um if any coach was going to be able to take on Shador and his Dion and all the stuff that comes with that, it would have been Mike Tomlin. Like he would have been
I
able to
agree.
handle that. So
Yeah.
yeah, a big head scratcher. I don't know what again. We already kind of discussed that, but I don't know what that whole situation was. But um, I didn't realize how many quarterbacks went in the later rounds here. So the Colts took Riley Leonard out of Notre Dame. I mean, they have obviously I forget his name too.
Richardson.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson, that they just drafted a couple years ago, and they have signed Danny Dimes as a
Hmm.
backup slash competition, I guess. So, I mean, yeah, at this rate in the draft, these are players you're just taking flyers on to see if they're depth pieces, and maybe one of them turns into a starter. Um, Houston took Florida quarterback Graham Mertz.
Good old
Um,
Graham.
yeah, he seems like he's going to be just a backup guy. Then the Raiders did something weird and they took quarterback at 213, and then 2 picks later they took a quarterback at 215. So they took
I didn't know this.
Tommy Tommy Mellott or Mellott from Montana State. And then they took Cam Miller from North Dakota State. So
Wyoming
clearly
State and North Dakota State.
clearly picking a very north spot of the United States there. But
I kind of like that. They're probably like big rivals. I don't know, like those two schools being that close in the middle of nowhere, like I think they probably hate each other. That could be a fiery little competition. I could see Tom Brady being down with that. Like, all right, listen, I'm taking two quarterbacks, both in the smallest schools possible that put up 8,000 yards and they both won state titles. Deep down, they both hate each other. They're well aware of who they are. And we're going to put them in the quarterback room and we're just going to make them fight. And it's going to be
I
beautiful.
mean, I'm looking at like brief stats. Their numbers are kind of wild. Like the Tommy Mellott from Montana State, he had 46 touchdowns last year.
Bro, they're getting drafted from Montana State and North Dakota State. They easily had like 50 touchdowns and 8,000 yards each.
Cam Miller from North Dakota State, when he had a clean pocket last season, he had a 92.6 passer rating or passing grade. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Tommy, he's like, I'm a 6th round guy. I get to pick the quarterbacks in the 6th round. I'm taking two quarterbacks from the middle of nowhere, and they're just going to fight it
You're
out
right.
because those two
I
guys will
forgot
be
Brady's
just,
there. Yeah,
they're just going to fight it out. Get two
they
just
could be Brady
tough
picks. Who
notch,
knows?
yeah, tough nosed, Midwestern, middle of nowhere quarterbacks, a lot of success, and let them battle it out because they both hate each other.
And then the last two, the Niners took a quarterback at 227, Curtis Rourke from Indiana. Um, don't know much about this guy.
Yeah.
Uh, apparently he's athletic, I guess. But and then the Dolphins, I didn't realize he went like the last quarterback to be taken. Quinn Ewers from Texas, who pretty much got shoved out of the way for um, the Manning brother. Um,
Yeah, well, Quinn Ewers has a problem where he doesn't throw to the right team. So
that too.
if he cleans that
He's
up, he's not awful.
So he was at 231 to the Dolphins. He he's a weird guy. I mean, I think a lot of people were saying he doesn't have he doesn't have the stuff for the NFL. Like he's not mentally tough. He lacks the arm strength and speed and accuracy, and so
Well, he's got a big arm. The
um
accuracy is more of his issue.
right. We'll see. I mean, I don't. None of these guys are really going to turn to starters. So. except for maybe the first 3 rounds or so. But
I don't know. Wait until you see who comes out of that death match between North Dakota
you
and
know what?
Wyoming.
How funny that
That's
would be
keep
though
an eye
if
on that one.
what not that I'm wishing it, but watch what's his name? Geno Smith get hurt. They got to throw somebody in the fire, and it's they had a heated camp battle. These FCS quarterbacks, fighting it out.
See, that's the roster position I want to see.
Are they on
Who
Hard
they got as
Knocks? Maybe they're on
backup?
Hard Knocks. That's why they took two
Two
quarterbacks.
quarterbacks, and they're going to be like,
Eh,
they obviously knew each other. I just assume all people from like North and South Dakota and Wyoming
it was like
and Montana
seven
just know
people
each
that live
other.
there. So yeah.
They all know each other, all of them,
Uh,
all 4 states. They're just all friends or enemies, whichever way you want to look at it.
so the Raiders probably jumped up your draft board there, huh? They probably got a bump
I,
in their rating.
I wasn't worried about the two quarterbacks from
Hmm,
middle of nowhere battling out its rivals in the 6th round. So
there you go.
I'm for it.
All right. So yeah, I think overall, like we kind of mentioned a couple times, it was a good. It wasn't a sexy draft. It was a good draft. Most teams really went after. They were able to fill needs at you know value positions. Not many teams were really reaching. I think like most teams are around like a B and C's, a couple A's and B or a couple A's. Obviously, we think Eagles are around A minus B plus. Maybe could have used a tight end or a wide receiver, another corner, but I think this team, the Eagles they're so young on defense that I'm not really worried about adding more pieces. Like I think they did good with what they grabbed in the draft. We'll see how the season and training camp progresses, and then come next year's draft, then we'll see. Okay, so they do need to get more corners. They do need to add more edge, whatever. But overall, I mean, obviously, I'm super ecstatic about the Virginia Tech edge rusher. You're obviously super happy about the UCF cornerback. So
Big time.
everyone's winning. Eagles won the Super Bowl. We're on cloud
That is
nine. What
true.
else? What
Yeah.
else is there to be sad
When
about
you
with
win
the
a Super
Eagles?
Bowl, you
So,
can do whatever you want,
oh fuck,
really.
and they had a
Yeah.
good win the Super Bowl, and then you have a top five draft according to most people. So,
I honestly, the Super Bowl did it once Jahad Campbell's name was announced. I was like,
oh
oh,
yeah,
okay,
so
yeah, we're done. I
we're
don't need
done
to see
here.
the rest of the draft.
Good night.
We're good.
But all right, yeah. So good draft by the Birds. Exciting to see, once training. I know they have rookie camp right now. See, other teams like there's still trades going on. Like we said, Cowboys, got George Pickens. That was a really random trade. I don't know. I mean, good for Dallas if he works out, but I don't know what the Steelers are doing. I mean, headache aside, he's still really he's a I'd say top 15, top 18 wide receiver. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but. Speaking of that, we'll be getting into our top 10 list shortly. Yeah, probably end of May, early June, and so look out for those. But any final thoughts on the draft, Tim? That's my wrap up.
No, I think I touched on it. I mean, I think the Eagles didn't have a lot of holes on the team. They had some positions to fill, but I don't think they had any like some of these teams in like, we need this or we're gonna suck. They're a Super Bowl winning team. The draft isn't really gonna affect them too much. They're ready to roll it back. Like I said, they brought back pretty much every offense starter. We're
Yeah.
nitpicking about wanting them to address needs a little bit more, but you didn't need the draft for this team to be, right back in the thick of it next year. They'll
Oh,
be they'll be
yeah.
set.
Well, all right. On that note, enjoy your vacation and
Will do.
you can go Birds.
Super.
Peace.